welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening for our bi-weekly guided meditation and Dharma talk here at the Blue Lotus Meditation and Mindfulness Center, located in central Minnesota, in Brainerd, Minnesota. If anyone is in the area, you're always welcome to just come by and join us for some mindfulness, some Dharma meditation. And if you're not nearby, please come by and visit. We would love to have you and talk with you and help you along your journey. So thank you. Today is September 15th, 2025. It is now 6 p.m. in the central time zone where I'm at. And just a brief announcement or two before we begin our services, our talk this evening. We do have a new book out, right, called the Dharma-Centered Gratitude Journal. And currently you can get it off of Amazon probably within the next 2 weeks or so. We'll be able to offer it directly through our website, but you can find the link to purchase that book if you like right on our website, right on the homepage. There'll be a little pop-up for that. And what it is it's a gratitude journal that is focused on the Dharma, right? Mindfulness aspects, good qualities that we hope to nurture and develop during our lifetime over a 30-day period. And it's important for reflection, right? So gratitude journals are absolutely important for reflection so that we can see where we have come from and where we would like to go on our journey. And then we also have a contest for a new book that's also getting ready to come out. It's a Dhammapada study guide, and it should be out within the first week or so of October. But what we are requesting of you is submit a picture, a Dharma or a Dhammapada or a Buddhist or a peaceful or a Zen type photograph right to our email, and we will publish that photograph on our YouTube page, so everybody can participate and select the image that they would like to see on that study guide, on the Dhammapada study guide book. And the winner will absolutely receive a free copy of that book shipped directly to them. So about a week or so left for your submissions, and then we will post all of the submissions on our YouTube channel in the comment sections or in the chat sections, and so you can check it out and see if that's something that you like, if you would like to participate in. So let's start with the 3 jewels. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Sathu, Sathu, Sathu. Very nice. So tonight's topic is important, and it really reflects on and resonates with a lot of things that are happening within the world. So tonight's Dharma talk is practicing nonviolence in times of stress and uncertainty. But you can really apply nonviolence to any circumstance, right? Not just during times of stress and uncertainty, but any time that you feel even threatened, we'll be able to practice nonviolence. And just a few little highlights that, what the Buddha talks about, some stories, some sutras, some stories, some events in his life where he absolutely practiced nonviolence, and it was rewarding. It was the outcome that everybody was desiring. And the first one is that you may be familiar with is Angulimala, right? The serial killer, the mass murderer that had all that garland of fingers around his neck. And he went and tried to attack the Buddha, but with the Buddha's presence, his wisdom, his kindness, his infinite compassion towards him, Angulimala stopped being violent, right? Joined the monkhood and became one of the Buddha's most trusted and valued monks of that time. And then the other story that comes to mind is with Nalagiri, the elephant, right? So Nalagiri was a very large, fearsome, intimidating, and aggressive elephant. And Buddha's cousin, Devadatta, always kind of jealous of Buddha, right? Causing some mischief towards him. And he got a hold of Nalagiri's handler, right? His keeper, and got the elephant very intoxicated and enraged and let loose among the people. And so Nalagiri was running all down the streets, and the city folk, the village folk were, all afraid and ran away. But Buddha with his monks walking down the streets, and all the monks were like, oh, watch out. Here comes a violent, enraged elephant. But Buddha with his infinite compassion and love and wisdom, and just all that radiating of metta or loving kindness, was able to subdue Nalagiri. Right? And he became very peaceful, very quiet. And we have our guest. Gus the cat is jumping up here. He may make his presence known. But Buddha was able to subdue with infinite compassion and wisdom Nalagiri's rage, because we know that, and we will explore this coming up, what Buddha says about violence and how are we able to 100% of the time overcome violence. I have to make sure that Gus the Dharma cat does not knock over any of the equipment over here. Gus, hop out. Come on, buddy. We kind of let them go as they please, right? Because cats are cool. So are dogs. We have both here at the center. But what did Buddha say about violence in general? A lot. And if we look at the Dhammapada, the collection of sayings that the Buddha, has made throughout his lifetime, there's a whole chapter of, dedicated to violence. And we're going to focus on verses 129 through 133. And he's up there. And I'll just simply read them directly from the text so that we're all on same familiarity with what the Buddha states about nonviolence and violence in general. Right? So it's the Dhammapada, violence chapter, verses 129 to 133. All tremble at violence, all fear death. Putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill, nor cause another to kill. All tremble at violence. Life is dear to all. Putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill, nor cause another to kill. One who, while himself seeks happiness, oppresses with violence other beings who also desire happiness, will not attain happiness. One who, while himself seeking happiness, does not oppress with violence other beings who also desire happiness, will find happiness hereafter. Speak not harshly to anyone, for those thus spoken to might retort. Indeed, angry speech hurts, and retaliation may overtake you. If we think about those statements, right, in those verses 129 to 133, think about the world today. A lot of suffering, a lot of violence, right? Certainly between Cambodia and Thailand, Cambodia and Myanmar or Burma, and Thailand and Indonesia to some degree, but also in Gaza and Israel, also with Russia and Ukraine that has been going on for a long time as well. And just a lot of skirmishes throughout the world, right? People trying to hurt one another through violent means, and whether it is through actual warlike violence or whether it's violent rhetoric. Sometimes here in the United States, where we often hear public figures speaking harshly, crassly, or crass, right? Unkind and angrily towards one another, with their means of trying to rile up the populace. And as Buddha states in verse 133 of the Dhammapada for the violence chapter, speak not harshly to anyone, for those thus spoken to might retort. Indeed, angry speech hurts, and retaliation may overtake you. So when you speak angrily towards someone, right, or just in general, some people may like what you say, but others will not. And so there may be some consequences that are hurtful to you, to your families, and whatnot. So we must be mindful. It's unskillful, right? It's unkind. It is unempathetic, right, to speak harshly towards others. So violence itself does not have to just be, physical violence. It can be through rhetoric. It can be through speech. So we must do our best to speak skillfully. In fact, right speech is one of the steps on the Noble Eightfold Path that we must adhere to. Right intention as well. We have to have the intent when we speak or when we act, that our actions, our thoughts, and our speech are benevolent, are constructive, and unifying. Right? We're here to uplift, not take advantage of and hurt one another. But what does the Buddha say? What are the repercussions of violence? And this is where sometimes people think that mindfulness and the Dharma and Buddhism is and it is very Zen-like and so forth, but it also talks about real life situations. What are the repercussions of unskillful, unkind, right, and hateful speech and actions towards one another? And so here in the Dhammapada, same chapter in violence, verses 137 to 140. He who inflicts violence on those who are unarmed and offends those who are inoffensive will soon come upon one of these 10 states, right? One of these 10 results or repercussions of violence: sharp pain or disaster, bodily injury, serious illness, or derangement of mind, trouble from the government, or grave charges, loss of relatives, or loss of wealth, or houses destroyed by ravaging fire. Upon dissolution of the body, the ignorant man is born in hell. So there are serious and significant repercussions to violence, violent speech, violent thought, violent action, right? Our bodies aren't meant to be in such a wild state. The natural state of mankind is calmness, is balance. It is not agitation. It is not conflict. And so disaster, right, could be, a loss of your home or a loss of wealth, a loss of status, whatever it is, right? Bodily injury, serious illness, bodily injury, certainly somebody who hears some type of agitating talk, who has an opposite opinion, may retaliate in some form. So we must be careful. We must be mindful. Our speech is powerful. It's a powerful tool that must be used responsibly. What is responsible use of our speech and our actions? For the benefit of everyone, not just a select few. So it's important that we are mindful of our speech and our actions, especially in public forums, public spaces, and even on social media. But where does violence originate from? Right? How do we get it? Right? What are the roots? Well, if we look at it deeply, humans commit those barbaric acts of violence out of ignorance, right? Out of ignorance, thinking that it will result in some type of advantageous outcome, right? Hatred, right? Ignorance certainly consists of hatred, right? Of a group of people or someone individually, a class of people or whatnot. Jealousy, right? Violence stems from jealousy, from desire, from fear, right? Of some type of loss or some type of change in status. Maybe you aren't the recipient of some type of beneficial action, right? Or beneficial decision. And so you feel that you are inferior, which leads us to the next one, ego, right? So violence stems from ego, that self-centered view that you are the center of the universe, the center of the world, and that nobody else is around you and that you are all important. Remember, ego is that very thin shell that we think protects us, but really is harmful. It allows us to make unskillful and undesirable actions as a result of that self-centered view, the small I, right? Not or the big I, the small I, right? Where it's not unifying, it's not developmental, it's not nurturing. Greed, right? Violence stems from greed, right? I want what you have, right? You have more than me. Many wars, many battles, many unnecessary altercations just between two individuals stem from greed. And certainly ignorance as well, right? Like we mentioned before. Also, not understanding what impermanence means. Impermanence is that all conditions are temporary. They arise from a previous condition, they exist for a certain amount of time, and then they cease to exist. So the wealth that you perhaps desire, the status that you perhaps desire, or someone else does, or whatever it is, right, will only last for a certain amount of time. It's not permanent. And so when we understand the gift that truly impermanence is, it allows us to understand that there's a different way for us to respond, right, within ourselves, right, which eventually and ultimately leads to how we respond outward. So how do we practice nonviolence, right? We really must dig deep beneath all of the layers in people and understand that violence is not a natural condition of man. And if you don't think so, if you think people are violent to begin with, look at many soldiers who have PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder because they have been subjected to horrific barbaric situations. Violence is not the natural condition of man. Peace and balance is. And soldiers and military personnel aren't the only ones that are living with PTSD. There are many types of sexual assault victims, right? Child abuse victims, family members of, perhaps somebody who's addicted, to a substance. There are a lot of situations, car accidents. Maybe you witnessed or experienced a car accident. Right? There are a lot of conditions that result in post-traumatic stress disorder. So violent actions, violent situations are not the natural condition of man. Peace and balance are. So we have to practice metta, loving kindness. That's very important. We have to have that loving kindness, that metta mindset, that open-heartedness for all living beings. So even though we may find someone speaking hatefully, we may find that same person acting violently and aggressive towards another, we also have to have metta, loving kindness towards them as well, that compassion and empathy. Because they are people too as well. And that's hard sometimes in our state of the world, that for us to understand and to accept. But in order for us to walk this path of awareness, of liberation, we have to dismiss and dispense with the notions of revenge or getting back at someone. We have to have boundless metta or loving kindness towards all living beings. So that's going to take patience on us, because that's not the way our societies are constructed. Right? We expect criminals to be thrown in jail, right? Just locked up and thrown away the key. Right? That's not going to help. Right? I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, that people commit violent acts, not be, rehabilitated in some aspect. Right? But we as people, as individuals, as a society, and you as a stream enterer on this path, on this journey, must practice patience and loving kindness. So we have a loving presence towards self, right? That union of mindfulness and the heart, right? We have to have that loving presence towards self. We have to understand that within ourselves, we may have those strong emotions arise when we see challenging situations. Absolutely. Right? That's a response, but we have to work towards that loving presence towards ourselves, where we can unify mindfulness in our heart. And that also goes with loving presence towards others, right? That metta, that loving kindness. And we have to have equanimity, right? Balance of our emotions, right? Not being overly assertive, yet being overly joyful at the same time. We have to have balance. And empathy, recognizing the suffering of others, right? They are the same as you, right? They suffer the same things you do, because they all have the same wants and desires, right? People want to be loved. People want to be recognized. People want to be safe. And with so many different people, right? Each one with their own slightly different views, right? Maybe differing, even though you may be best friends with someone, they're probably going to have slightly different views than you do, but you're still friends with them. But now imagine somebody who has a completely different perspective of you. Right? Maybe we're on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, but they suffer as well, because they are perhaps thinking ill of you, the same way you're thinking ill of them. But when we nurture empathy, we recognize that they are suffering as well, just as we are. And that allows us to have metta and loving kindness towards them. And again, that takes patience. And living ethically, right? Living ethically ourselves. We just came from a retreat over the weekend, and we talked about being a role model. And when you are a mindfulness practitioner, or perhaps even a stream enterer, right, you're on that journey of liberation, right? There's a certain way that we live, right, that is ethically, that does not harm others. And it doesn't harm ourselves as well, because we think of when we harm ourselves, we harm others. And when others, perhaps harm themselves, they can harm us too, because our emotions are involved. And to tie these all in, meditation. We have to have a dedicated meditation practice. Meditation brings wisdom. It always will. So we can talk about metta, we can talk about patience, we can talk about empathy and equanimity and mindful living and living ethically and so forth. Right? We can talk as much as we want about the Dhammapada and all the verses and everything. But if we don't have a meditation practice to solidify, to nurture, to develop, to strengthen, we won't get very far. We will continue the same cycles of violence and hatred and aggression towards one another, whether it's through physical action or whether it's through speech or even our own thoughts. But just as anger can turn even the mightiest beast into a source of destruction, so too can compassion transform even the fiercest beast into a force of peace. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but by love. This is an eternal truth. Hatred will always bring about more hatred. It will leave that cycle continuously in motion. To break that cycle, we must use love. So we have to think about that. And it can be hard sometimes because it's a almost instinctual reaction that if somebody hurts us, we have to retaliate. If somebody threatens us, we have to be on the defensive. That's just going to create or continue that same cycle of violence and fear and ignorance. So to break that cycle, we have to oppose it with love and understanding and compassion and empathy. That is the eternal truth. So what I'd like to do is to help solidify this Dharma talk with a guided meditation on nonviolence. And so let's begin by taking a moment to settle our bodies into that comfortable position. Right? You may keep your eyes closed or slightly open with a soft focus, looking downward a few feet in front of you if you choose. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. And as you sit there, you're warmly invited to allow a half smile to rest on your face as well. Lift your spine and allow your shoulders to soften. And soften your belly as you continue settling in. Breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. And let's meditate on nonviolent practices or nonviolence as a way of life. And let's turn our hearts and minds toward nonviolence, ahimsa, right? That's the ancient Buddhist practice of not causing harm. Nonviolence is not only the absence of physical harm, but also the cultivation of kindness, patience, compassion in thought, speech, and action. As you breathe, bring into mind this gentle truth. All beings, just like me, seek safety, happiness, and peace. Repeat silently in your heart, may I live with a heart of nonviolence. May my thoughts be peaceful. May my words be gentle. May my actions cause no harm. Go ahead and allow these words to settle like seeds in the soul of your heart. Now bring to mind someone close to you, a loved one, a friend, or even a neutral person. And see them in your heart and silently wish, may you live with a heart of nonviolence. May your thoughts be peaceful. May your words be gentle. May your actions cause no harm. And breathe with this intention, offering them the gift of peace. Now let your heart widen a little bit farther and include those you may struggle with, someone who has perhaps caused you some difficulty. And hold them in gentle awareness and without judgment, offering them the same wish. May you live with a heart of nonviolence. May your thoughts be peaceful. May your words be gentle. May your actions cause no harm. Notice if resistance arises, and if it does, simply just let it be. Because nonviolence begins with allowing. And finally, imagine all beings, human and non-human, near and far, seen and unseen. The birds, the animals, the rivers, the forests, the countless beings of this vast world, and with a spacious heart, silently extend. May all beings live with a heart of nonviolence. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free from harm. And go ahead and rest for a few breaths in this vast field of compassion, as though your breath itself were carrying peace throughout the world. And now gently return awareness to your own body and feel the breath moving in and out. And wherever you're sitting, simply feel that ground beneath you, steady and supportive. And when you're ready, simply open your eyes softly, carrying with you the intention of nonviolence in thought, in word, and in your deeds into the moments ahead. It's an important meditation, nonviolence, especially in this world today. And I do want to leave you again with that final quote from Buddha, and regarding nonviolence. And again, I'll reiterate again that the saying is, just as anger can turn even the mightiest beast into a source of destruction, so too can compassion transform even the fiercest being into a force of peace. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but by love. And this is an eternal truth. So sometimes we may even think that, or view that, so many people, so many groups are just filled with anger and hatred. And if that's true, there has to be the opposite. In fact, there has to be much more of the opposite. Right? So there are many more people in the world who are filled with love and compassion and empathy and charity and gratitude. And if you're here watching this, you're among them. You're among those people. And so, as a Buddhist, as a mindfulness practitioner or a stream enterer, right? Help share that. Help share your metta, your loving kindness, your compassion, your empathy, right? Your graciousness, and your gratitude towards others. And we can work better towards promoting a much kinder, a much softer world for all of us to live in. I know I went way over this evening. It was an important talk. Anyway, our next talk is on September 29th, again at 6 p.m. Central Time, and it will be titled Radiant and Glorious, Becoming the Rising Sun. So thinking about how glorious, how beautiful, that rising sun is every morning that we get to see it. And if it's been a while since you've seen the sunrise, wake up a little bit early and watch it. Wherever you are, every sunrise is beautiful. It's always filled with hope and optimism for that day and all the pretty colors. So September 29th, 6 p.m., radiant and glorious, becoming the rising sun. And thank you for spending a lot of your precious time with us this evening as we went through this very important topic on nonviolence. So we wish you many blessings and Namo Buddhaya.